The clock is ticking down towards what could be the most pivotal moment in the entire two-decade history of the Iraqi dinar investment, a moment that is being heralded across countless forums and private groups as nothing short of an economic resurrection scheduled for 8 p.m. tonight, and while your heart might be racing with a potent mixture of anticipation and sheer anxiety, I need you to press pause on that emotion for just a few critical minutes and understand with absolute clarity why this specific rumor has gained such unprecedented traction and what the cold, hard realities of the global financial system actually say about the possibility of an overnight windfall. The genesis of this specific 8 p.m. timeline appears to be a confluence of several factors that have collided in a perfect storm of speculation, starting with the ongoing and very real negotiations between the government of Iraq and the United States Federal Reserve, which are not a rumor but a documented fact centered on moving Iraq away from the strict dollar-based transaction system that has been a cornerstone, and some would argue a constraint, of its post-invasion economy. This move towards a more independent monetary policy, often discussed in the context of ending the dollar monopoly, is a necessary step for a sovereign nation, but within the dinar community, every whisper from these high-level meetings is often amplified and reinterpreted as the direct precursor to the long-awaited revaluation. Furthermore, signals from the Central Bank of Iraq itself have added fuel to this fire. Their public statements about needing to stabilize the currency, control inflation, and manage the exchange rate gap between the official and parallel market are all legitimate goals of any central bank, but they are often parsed word by word by investors looking for a hidden code, a secret message that points towards an imminent, dramatic reappraisal of the dinar's worth. This is where we must perform our first and most crucial act of separation, distinguishing between the logical, long-term objectives of a developing nation's central bank and the explosive, specific, and often unfounded claims of a time-stamped event created by the hype machine. The fundamental argument for a revaluation has always been intellectually seductive and is rooted in a simple economic premise: a country with the world's fifth-largest proven oil reserves, vast mineral wealth, and a significant agricultural potential should not have a currency that trades at a rate established in the aftermath of war and sanctions, a rate that is arguably an artificial relic rather than a reflection of the nation's inherent tangible assets and future economic potential. Proponents argue that a stronger dinar is essential for Iraq to shed its status as a financially fragile state, to attract foreign direct investment outside of the oil sector, to build infrastructure without the burden of a devalued currency, and most importantly, to allow its citizens to experience the prosperity that their nation's vast resources should logically command. This core logic is powerful, it is compelling, and it is the very bedrock upon which every single dinar rumor is built, because it provides a veneer of economic sense to the speculation. However, and this is the most critical point I will make in this entire video, a logical long-term economic theory does not equate to a scheduled event on the international Forex calendar, and the leap from "this should happen" to "this is happening at 8 p.m. tonight" is a chasm filled with immense risk, unverified sources, and a long, painful history of disappointment. The digital ecosystem surrounding the dinar is uniquely structured to exploit this very leap of faith, creating a self-reinforcing echo chamber where a single unsubstantiated post on a social media platform can be screenshotted, shared across a dozen private groups, commented on by a self-proclaimed guru, and then presented as breaking news from multiple confirmed sources, a cycle that generates adrenaline and clicks but very little verifiable truth. So, as we sit here hours away from this supposed deadline, your first and most important task is to mentally inoculate yourself against this hype and commit to a process of rigorous, sober verification, because what happens, or more importantly, what does not happen at 8 p.m. tonight will dictate the next phase of this journey for every single investor. So, let's transition from understanding the theory and the hype to establishing an unbreakable, step-by-step protocol for verification, a concrete plan of action that you must follow minute by minute as we approach this 8 p.m. deadline, because in the world of high-stakes finance, the difference between being first and being fooled often comes down to the quality and reliability of your sources. And I cannot stress enough that your primary goal tonight is not to be the first person to know, but to be the most accurately informed person in the room. Your first and non-negotiable destination must be the official website of the Central Bank of Iraq. This is the absolute source of truth for any legitimate change in the monetary policy of the nation, and you need to look for a specific section typically labeled press releases or announcements, written in both formal Arabic and their official English translation, bearing the official seal and logos of the CBI, and it will be written in a dry, legalistic tone, not the excited, breathless language of a forum post. Any announcement of a revaluation will be a monumental, historic document for the nation of Iraq, and it will be presented with the utmost formality and clarity. It will not be hidden, it will not be cryptic, and it will not require you to interpret vague statements from a third-party translator. If you do not see this official, formal press release on their government-owned domain, then from the perspective of verifiable fact, no revaluation has been officially announced, regardless of what any other source is screaming at you. Your second critical checkpoint, operating simultaneously, must be the major international financial news wires, specifically Reuters, Bloomberg, and the Associated Press, organizations that maintain bureaus and seasoned journalists in Baghdad whose entire professional reputation is built on verifying information before they publish it. If a legitimate revaluation of a major national currency were to occur, it would trigger seismic waves across global financial markets, and these news agencies would have it as their top, flashing headline, with datelines confirming the story from their on-the-ground sources within the Iraqi government and central bank. The absence of a headline from these three agencies is a silence so loud it should drown out all the noise from the rumor mills, because it means the event has not passed the most basic test of international journalistic scrutiny. The third tier of your verification matrix involves the global foreign exchange data aggregators and trading platforms, specifically the likes of xe.com, ONDA, and Forex.com. These are not news outlets, they are financial data companies whose systems are directly linked to live interbank trading feeds and liquidity providers. They will not update their publicly listed, benchmark exchange rate for a currency based on a social media post or a screenshot from a chat group. Their systems will only reflect a new rate once it is confirmed, executable, and has sufficient liquidity in the international banking system to be considered a valid, tradable price. Seeing a change on one of these established, reputable platforms is a powerful secondary confirmation, but you must understand there will be a lag, perhaps a significant one of several hours or even days, between a CBI announcement and its live, tradable status on the retail Forex market, a delay dictated by compliance checks, system updates, and the sheer operational mechanics of the global financial infrastructure. This crucial lag is where the most dangerous misinformation spreads, where you might see celebratory posts claiming victory while the actual trading platforms still show the old rate, a dissonance that should be your biggest red flag. Furthermore, you must be acutely aware of the critical distinction between the official CBI rate and the parallel market rate on the streets of Baghdad. A successful, credible revaluation will see these two rates converge rapidly as confidence in the new official price takes hold. If you hear claims of a new, high official rate but can find live, verifiable reports from on-the-ground sources in Iraq showing the street rate is still dramatically lower and disconnected, that is a definitive indicator that the announcement, if it exists at all, lacks immediate credibility, enforcement, or the necessary market confidence to be considered real, and it signals that the old economic pressures and lack of faith that created the gap in the first place are still very much in play. This three-layered verification process, CBI official statement, international wire confirmation, and live data from Forex platforms, is your shield against the chaos, and it is the only way to navigate the next few hours with any semblance of security and intelligence. Now we arrive at the most critical part of this entire process, the practical and psychological framework you must adopt regardless of the outcome at 8 p.m., because your long-term financial well-being and mental peace depend not on a single rumor, but on the disciplined, responsible habits you implement right now, long before the clock strikes that fateful hour. Let's be brutally honest about the two most likely scenarios that will unfold tonight, and your premeditated response to each. In the first, and statistically far more probable scenario, 8 p.m. comes and goes with no official announcement from the Central Bank of Iraq, no corresponding headlines from Reuters or Bloomberg, and no movement on the Forex platforms, a silence that will be filled by the hype machine instantly moving the goalposts, offering new excuses, and announcing a new, future date with the same fervor, trapping investors in a perpetual cycle of hope and disappointment. Your response to this outcome must not be despair, but a reaffirmation of your own due diligence. You followed the protocol, you sought verification from primary sources, you found none, and you therefore successfully avoided making any impulsive financial decisions based on fiction, that is not a loss, that is a victory for rational investing, and it should give you the confidence to permanently mute the sources that led you astray. In the second, almost unimaginable scenario where the stars align and the official verification from our three-tiered process materializes, your work is not over, it has actually just begun in the most complex way possible. Your first action must be to remain calm and consult the written plan you should draft now, before the chaos potentially erupts. This plan must include a predefined list of legitimate, licensed currency exchange services in the United States that deal in exotic currencies like the Iraqi Dinar, because you must understand that your local bank branch, from Chase to Bank of America, will almost certainly not be able to facilitate this exchange, especially not in the immediate aftermath. You need to have their contact information, their specific policies, and their physical locations already researched and at your fingertips. Secondly, and this is a point that cannot be overstated, you must immediately engage a qualified tax attorney or a certified public accountant who has experience with international currency gains, because the profit from such an exchange, the difference between your purchase price and the new, higher exchange rate, is classified by the Internal Revenue Service as a capital gain, and it is fully taxable income. The exchange service you use will likely file a Form 1099-B with the IRS, creating a paper trail that you are legally obligated to reconcile. Failing to plan for this tax liability could result in a devastating financial blow that strips away a significant portion of your windfall, turning a dream into a nightmare. Third, you must have a clear, cold-blooded strategy for the exchange itself. Will you convert your entire holding at once, or will you execute a phased approach to mitigate risk and navigate potential initial volatility in the newly established rate? This is not a decision to be made in the heat of the moment amidst a frenzy of excitement. It is a strategic financial decision.